Hey guys, this is a review of the NYX or NYX liquid foundation, and it has a really long name. They call it this is the best makeup I've ever used makeup. And it's just their basic liquid foundation. You can buy it on nyxcosmetics.com, through an NYX representative, or on cherryculture.com, which is where I got mine. And the prices do vary slightly, but I think on Cherry Culture it was around $13. And I forget who requested this review, but I'll put their name over in the description box. But basically, it's just an average liquid foundation. It says it has SPF 15, and on the bottle it says it's natural and long lasting. What else does it say? Fresh, lightweight, and comfortable. Long lasting, natural, beautiful skin. And it says waterproof with normal activity, which I'll talk about. And then it says this makeup will cover imperfections perfectly and perfect for all skin types. So, first of all, I'm going to talk about the coverage. This is a really, really light coverage foundation. You know, some people might even compare it to a 10 moisturizer, and I'll show you guys. It comes with a pump, which is actually the main reason why I bought it, and because it came in a really pale shade. I own it in shade LM1 Pale, which is the lightest shade they offer, because you guys know I use the Revlon Color Stay a lot, and in the winter that's a little bit too dark for me. Even though that is one of the best matching drugstore foundations I found, I wanted to try something really pale that would match me better, so I bought this. And then it also came with a pump, which if you guys saw my Revlon Color Stay foundation review, that was like one of the only things about it that bothered me, was that I had to pour it out and I would always end up using too much. So let me show you guys how this covers. So it comes out like this. It's kind of thick. It's not quite as liquidy as the Revlon, like you guys saw. Like the Revlon would just kind of be running down my, down my hand right now. But it's kind of creamy of consistency, but I'll show you guys how well it covers. I just have this latex sponge right here. It's dry, but this is how I have to apply this. So I'll just put it on this one cheek and stipple it out. And there it is. That's about how well it covers. So I just have it like right here on my face. I'm not sure if you guys can tell any difference at all. In person I can tell a tiny bit of a difference. It did tone down my redness a bit. That's about all it does. That is the best coverage I'll get. And let me show you on my chin too, because that's kind of where I have my acne scars. So I'm just stippling it on there. I'm not rubbing at all, because stippling gives you better coverage. So there. You can hardly see any difference. And it does cover some, which is good, but like I said, it's like a 10 moisturizer. It'll just barely even out your skin tone. Tone down a little bit of redness. You guys can see I have some acne scars here. They're still visible, but not as visible as when I wasn't wearing this. So, you know, it tones it down. It evens out just a tiny bit. If you have minor imperfections, I would totally recommend this. But if you have really uneven skin tone, or break out a lot, or have like really bad dark circles and aren't going to use a concealer, I wouldn't recommend this at all, because I have it like on this cheek and my chin right now, and you can't tell much difference, if you can tell any difference at all. So the coverage isn't that good. It would be adequate for some people, and if you don't need that much coverage, I guess it's okay. And then the problem that also bothered me is I'm not sure if you could tell when I was applying it, because I was making really sure to just stipple it on instead of blending. It gets really streaky really easily, which surprised me, because I usually think of streakiness as being like from a liquidy foundation, and this one was thicker and creamier than my Revlon, so it surprised me when this was streaking. And then if you guys saw my liquid foundation tutorial, you notice that, you know, I raved on and on about the Sonia Kashuk Blue Sponge and how much I love it and how perfect it is for applying liquid foundation. And then you notice that just now I'm using this cheap, like, 25-cent latex sponge. And the reason for that is what it says on the container. It says waterproof with normal activity. This is not waterproof at all. And I'm not sure if you guys saw my first video, but when I first got this, I wanted to return it, and I couldn't because Cherry Culture doesn't take opened items as returned, like it has to be completely unused, and I'd already used it once. And initially I tried to apply it with my Sonia Kashuk blue sponge. If you guys saw, my technique with doing that is you get this sponge like pretty much essentially soaked all the way through and then wring it out a little bit, but it's really damp. And the reason you should use a damp sponge is because it doesn't soak up all the makeup. Like you guys can see in this sponge, I've used it a couple times for the liquid makeup and it's soaked up a lot of it. And when I tried to use this with the Sonia Kashuk sponge, it would just kind of like separate on my face and it looked as if nothing was there, and the more I stippled it on, the more it would look like nothing was there. And then after using a sponge like this, after a while I discovered it was because the sponge was wet. So you can't use a wet sponge with it. So I'm not going to use it with my Sonia Kashuk sponge because the sponge is made differently than like these standard latex sponges, and that if I used the blue sponge, it would soak up even more of the makeup. And then I talked about the streakiness, so, you know, after I tried it with the Blue Peep, the Sonia Kashuk blue sponge, I was like, okay, I can't use a damp sponge. So I tried to use my MAC 187, which a lot of people like. And I would, like, you know, stipple it on and then blend it out in circles. It was streak mania. Like, I just had, like, a circle of foundation on my face, and eventually I realized the only way I could possibly apply it where it would look nice was with this sponge, stippling it on dry, which of course soaks up foundation, and it doesn't give that good coverage. So I'm kind of torn about this. I do still use it now, but I'll tell you, I don't use it by itself. Right now, you guys saw my haul with Everyday Minerals, and I have a tutorial with that as well. I use this as a base for my Everyday Minerals. Honestly, because, you know, I love my Everyday Minerals. I don't want to waste a lot of it, and while it does provide good coverage, if I didn't use this, I'd have to use more of my Everyday Minerals to get the same coverage that I do when I use this. And I think I talked about in my tutorial video how my green primer that I use to balance out the redness in my cheeks doesn't show up under my Revlon Color Stay because that's like super, super high coverage. But if I wear mineral makeup, it's not quite as covering as liquid makeup. So the green is more likely to show through, and I don't want to look sick. So instead of using my green primer, when I use my Everyday Minerals, I use this. I still use my Everyday Primer. I put a little bit of this on, and then I use my Everyday Minerals. So this is just kind of like a 10 moisturizer, or like a pre-evening out product that I use now, but I would not call this a foundation. So, you know, if you guys have no problem applying it with a dry latex sponge and have no problem with like the really, really light coverage, I'd recommend it because it does come in a wide variety of shades. It matches me pretty well. In fact, this might be the only foundation I've ever had that is paler than I am. I could probably go one shade up and still have a pretty good match. But, you know, I am going to use it all the way through because I did spend $13 on it, which, you know, isn't as much as other foundations, but it's definitely not cheap. I'm going to use it all up, but when it's gone, I honestly don't think I'm going to buy it again. So, yeah, that's about it. It's, you know, if I had to give it a star rating, I'd be like 2.5 stars out of 5, or 2 out of 5. Sorry guys, my camera was about to turn itself off. But, yeah, about 2.5 stars out of 5. I would call it more of a 10 moisturizer than a foundation. Yeah, if you guys just have a really hard skin tone to match and have a NYX representative near you and you can try it on and try your foundation shade on first, I would highly recommend that. But otherwise you pretty much have to order online, and even if they do have a shade that's going to match you because they have a lot of shades, you're not likely to find it on the first time when you order online just because it's hit or miss. And you can't return products to Cherry Culture if they've already been opened and swatched on your face. So, yeah, if you guys are pretty confident that you can pick your right shade and you're okay with low coverage and a little bit of streaking, that's fine. If not, I would skip this one. But yeah, that's about it. If you guys have any more questions on this product, please leave a comment or send me a message. Bye guys.